Do you really have to think about environmental compliance every single day? And how do you stay compliant when you're already busy running a business? Well, in this video, we're going to cover a simple environmental compliance routine that only takes a little bit of time each month, and by the end, you'll know exactly what you should be doing throughout the year. Hey there, I'm Tate Hunter with RMA, your environmental experts. We help businesses build environmental compliance programs that are practical to maintain, so if you ever need a hand with yours, just reach out. Let's jump in. Now, the biggest mistake that we see small business owners make is thinking that environmental compliance is a one-time huge project, but it's not. The businesses that stay compliant the easiest are usually the ones that are just doing a handful of small things consistently instead of scrambling once a year or when a deadline shows up or when an inspector walks through the door. So if you're wondering, how do I stay compliant with environmental regulations? The answer is surprisingly simple. Just build a routine. Now, let's start with the things that you should be doing about once a month. First, walk your facility. You're looking for anything that's changed. New equipment, new chemicals, leaks, damaged containers, poor housekeeping. Small issues are much easier to fix now than after they become violations. And depending on the regulations that apply to you, that walkthrough may actually satisfy one or more of your required inspections. For example, facilities with an SPCC plan or a stormwater permit or some other environmental program often have required inspection frequencies as a part of those programs, and instead of doing separate walkthroughs for each program, you can usually just combine them all into one more comprehensive inspection. Second, check your inventory. Have you brought in any new products? Are you storing more oil than you used to? Did you switch to a different chemical for something? Sometimes adding a new material or simply increasing the amount that you already have is enough to trigger an entirely new regulatory requirement. Third, review your waste accumulation areas. Make sure that your containers are properly labeled and they're closed when they're supposed to be, and that waste is being managed according to the requirements that apply to your facility. Those requirements can vary depending on the type and the quantity of waste that you generate, so this isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all checklist. And finally, update your inspection logs. It only takes a few minutes to stay on top of it. Now let's move to quarterly tasks. Every few months, it's worth reviewing your permits to make sure that you're still meeting their requirements. Inspect emergency equipment like spill kits or anything else that your facility relies on during an emergency. Take some time to audit your documentation and make sure that records are complete and easy to find. And if employee responsibilities have changed, make sure that everyone still knows who is responsible for what. And then there are the annual tasks, and this is where you're typically going to schedule employee environmental training or schedule reports to be completed like Tier 2 or TRI reports if they apply to your facility and you're hiring an outside consultant. This is a great time to review your permits and make sure that they're all still current. You should perform a more comprehensive compliance audit, and you should update any information that is out of date since the last time. Now, this is clearly a lot to remember, so one of the things that we recommend to almost every single client that we work with is to build a compliance calendar. Instead of trying to remember everything that applies to your facility and when you should do it, you should just put it on a calendar at the beginning of the year, schedule your recurring inspections, block time for those quarterly reviews, add those annual deadlines like Tier 2 and TRI reporting and permit renewals and required training, and don't forget any permit-specific deadlines like required monitoring or sampling events. Once it's on your calendar, you're much less likely to miss something. Technology can help too, but in our experience, only if you keep it simple. Digital inspection forms are easier to complete and they are easier to find later, and calendar reminders help you prevent missed deadlines. Cloud document storage means that your permits and your inspection logs and your training records are available when you need them instead of buried in a filing cabinet. And if you have enough employees, a training management system can make it much easier to track who needs what and when it's due again. Now, the point is not to buy a bunch of software, it is to build some sort of system that is easy enough for you to actually use on a day-to-day basis. And one last thing, environmental compliance is incredibly site-specific, so depending on your business, you may have additional requirements that happen on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, or on some other completely different schedule. The important thing is to identify everything that applies to your facility and add it to your compliance calendar. And once every recurring requirement has a date attached to it, staying compliant becomes much more manageable because you're not relying on memory anymore. And it also becomes much easier to rebuild that calendar year after year. Now, if you'd rather not manage all of that yourself, that is where we come in. RMA helps businesses build practical compliance programs, perform environmental audits, prepare required plans and reports, and keep clients on track with recurring environmental requirements so that nothing falls through the cracks. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you run a small business, check out the link in the description to our dedicated small business page at rmagreen.com. We pulled together all of our articles, videos, guides, tools, calculators, and information on our services for small businesses all in one place. If you want to dive deeper into any of our specific services, we've got a dedicated learning center for each one, plus pricing pages and calculators so you can see exactly what it would cost to have RMA handle it. And if you want to talk to an environmental expert about your business, you can reach out at rmagreen.com too. Thank you again for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.